Here at Rowtons Museum we have hundreds of paranormal artefacts on display, spread over 4,000 square feet of exhibits. Last December, an eminent Fortean researcher and author, keen to support our fledgling museum, came to visit in the guise of a gothic paranormal Santa Claus to donate many incredible artefacts. Richard Freeman is a cryptozoologist, author, and the zoological director of the Centre for Fortean Zoology. He has travelled the world in search of creatures which mainstream science denies the existence of, such as the Yeti, the Mongolian Death Worm, and even dragons. Richard is a frequent lecturer across the UK, having given talks at the Natural History Museum, the University of London, and soon our very own Rowtons Museum of the Paranormal and Spirituality. We had no idea what he had come to donate, other than that the artefacts would have been carefully selected, Richard's choices guided by his years of expertise. Oh, and also that one of the items in particular was used for something abominable.
Okay, here we go then.
In a recent podcast you said you wanted one of these, an alleged...
Oh my goodness.
Oh my god.
An alleged Debuk Box.
Where on earth did you get that from?
That well-known hub of Hebrew spirituality, Wigan. I sincerely doubt its veracity because in Hebrew legend the Debuk is a spirit, a disembodied spirit that wanders about trying to possess people. There are no references to it being captured in boxes or living in boxes. The original Debuk Box was a sideshow gaff. It was made out of an old wine cabinet and the guy just made the story up. The fella that brought it did a whole website about it and it sort of blossomed from there, and they even made a not very good horror film about it. The story behind this is the person that sold it said that their auntie was a spiritual medium. She collected various occult items. She got this from a couple in Wigan who also collected various occult items, but when they brought this into their house there was poltergeist activity, lots of scratching noises and things being thrown around. So she donated it to the auntie, who then put a protective circle around it and had it in her collection till she passed on and gave it to the seller. I've had it in my bedroom for several weeks with absolutely nothing happening.
Did you purposely put it in your bedroom so that you would have it right by you?
I had nowhere else to put it.
Okay. I was going to say, I wondered why you wanted it so close.
I live in a bedsit which is mainly occupied by books and dust. So all these occult objects were on top of all of that.
Yeah.
So you may want to open it up. It's got something that rattles around inside it. I don't know what it is.
Did they have any idea what was in it?
No. They didn't say. You may want to open it up and see what happens. I think it's just an old, creepy looking jewellery box that they've put string and black wax around to make it look all haunted.
Yeah.
So I doubt.
Well, that's definitely an interesting one to have people come in with and kind of make note of what people think they experience with, and then maybe after a time to then open it.
Now, I personally think this one is a load of old nonsense, but you said you wanted one,
so... to test the idea.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, to play with the other side of things, it's supposed to contain the spirit, so you having no activity, maybe he's just doing his job.
Doing a good job, yeah, I suppose. Should they really generate activity then?
I don't know, but if you wanted to open it, it's all down to you.
Thank you.
This next one is particularly pertinent for something that turned up recently. This is from ranges between 200 BC to 100 AD. It's from Cambridgeshire. It was found this year in a peat bog, and it is a Celtic stone head.
Oh wow. Fantastic.
Back in the 70s, and it ran for a very long time, there's a series called Nationwide, and it was on after the regional news, and it was called Nationwide because it went nationwide. And they would have serious news items on, and then they'd have things like skateboarding ducks and giant snails that drunk beer, and they'd have like supernatural things on it as well. And they had this case called the Hexham Heads.
Ah, I do know that, yeah.
2 heads dug up in Hexham, Northumberland in 1971 by 2 children, taken into the house. And they were not unlike these, same sort of size and shape. But afterwards, poltergeist activity in their house and the neighbour's house. And both them and their neighbours saw what they described as a werewolf haunting the house. And the heads were given to Dr. Anne Ross, who was a very acclaimed expert in Celtic Britain. And she thought they were part of the Celtic head cult. And whilst they were at her house, she and her daughter also saw the same creature, the werewolf. And they've now been lost. Nobody knows where the Hexham Heads are. But the footage from nationwide has just turned up again after 40 odd years have been lost. But I've also had that in my bedroom, no werewolves. So
the Hexham Heads, that footage, does it resemble that then?
It does, yeah.
Because I know that one of the theories was that it was they were actually concrete
and they were supposed to. Yeah, a guy said these are not. The kids thought they were a witch and a skeleton. And he says, this guy turns up and he says, they're not a witch and a skeleton. It's Hitler and Mussolini. I made them after the war out of concrete for me kids. But he couldn't replicate them. And Dr. Anne Ross thought they were real. And they had a mineralogist looked at them and they said it was quartz, not concrete.
Okay.
But they were taken to a museum and lost. Now, I know how museums tend to work, and things get filed away and put away in drawers, and especially with zoological specimens. There was a creature called Delcourt's giant gecko, the world's largest gecko, about 1 metre long, totally unknown to science, and it was hanging around as a stuffed specimen in a natural history museum in Paris until a gecko expert saw it and completely freaked out because it was a totally unknown creature. So stuff like this happens. So the Hexham Heads may be in somewhere in the north of England in some storage, but you've got your very own Celtic head there.
That's wonderful.
This is the first thing I came across. I got it from a friend of mine who has done shamanistic training in Nepal, and he deals in antiques from Nepal and Tibet. It's from the 1890s, and it is a Naga Mara, a shaman's necklace made out of the vertebrae of a cobra.
Oh dear me, wow.
Now, the Buddhist shamans would never kill a snake. They would come across a dead one, put it inside of a piece of bamboo, which is hollow, and then leave it to rot. And when it rotted, they'd thread the vertebrae onto a string to make a necklace, which they would then dip into water that had herbs in it. And if somebody was ill, they'd strike them with the necklace after it had been dipped in the water to heal them. This is from Fiji, the island of Fiji, and there are quite a few fakes of these knocking around. This is a genuine one. This is a Fijian chieftain's ritual cannibal fork. These were used by the chief to eat the brains of his victims. So this has been in some, probably more than one person's skull.
Did you clean it? Oh.
And what they did was they mashed up the brain matter and ate it like that.
So you say ritualistically?
Yes.
So what is the ritual element? Is it the idea that
they are consuming the life force of their victim? The last person to be consumed like that in Fiji was a British clergyman who was a Christian missionary, and several of his followers. They were killed by a chief and eaten in 1867, and that was the last of them. Then it died out, and these were kept as relics and often given to ship captains in the later 19th century. You can tell it's one of the originals because the ones they make for the tourist trade are very showy. They've got turtles and things on them, but these are much more utilitarian. So there you go. cannibal chieftains.
I find it disturbing that you keep rubbing the end bit. You're trying to flick something off the end.
I think it's been at least the 1860s since it's had any brain matter on it. This is the oldest thing I've got. This is 2,400 years old. It's from the Warring States period in China. It probably came from a Taoist temple, and it's a bronze statue of a dragon.
Wow.
I think it looks like Ermintrude the cow from the Magic Roundabout. But this is 2,400 years old.
What's it saying?
Fantastic.
Ooh.
And Taoism, you can find out more about Taoism, but it's basically not being involved in the strivings of humanity, but going with nature.
Yeah.
That's basically what Taoism is. And the dragon and the tiger are the two animals that they always have in Taoist temples.
I carried that one in. I have no idea what it is.
This came from a temple in China. It was sold to me by an antiques dealer called Michelle Cheng, and her father got it in the 1990s, and both he and she said they have never seen anything like it before anywhere else. And it was originally from a temple, then they believe it was used in rituals. It's 19th century. I call it Mr. Cheng after.
Oh my God.
And that is a carved Asian dragon.
Holy moly.
The ball in there is sometimes called the flaming pearl, and it's thought to represent the sun, because in solar eclipses they thought the dragon was swallowing the sun, and they would bang gongs and beat on drums and blow trumpets to make the dragon spit out the sun again. Of course, Oriental dragons are benign. They're associated deeply with water and rainfall and control over the seas, oceans, rivers, lakes, and the breath condenses and forms rain. So they are more like gods than beasts, and if treated with respect, they were thought to be benign, and they brought agriculture and music and learning to the ancient Chinese.
Goodness. Wow. Move him so that, oh dear me. Is it usual that they would have the horn?
Yes. Yeah, because Chinese dragons go through a number of different stages of life. They hatch out and look like snakes, and there's the old adage, do not despise the snake because he has no horns. One day he might become a dragon. And it was thought that they would grow and grow and grow until they resembled huge snakes with the head of a carp. And then in the next stage of life, they grew the forelegs and the crocodile-like reptilian head. In the next stage, they grew the horns, but they still didn't have wings. And this horn in the middle was a magical organ which they used to fly. And then in the final stage, when they became the most powerful, or the yin long, they grew wings like Western dragons. This is probably my second favourite. This is from Lombok, which is an island in Indonesia that's near to Bali. Now, in Indonesia, unlike most of the rest of Asia, dragons are associated with fire like they are in the West. And the fire dragon was supposed to live in volcanoes, but it was thought to be a protector of the people. So it wasn't evil, but it did breathe fire and live in volcanoes. And this is carved out of bone.
Yeah.
So you could say it was a bone idol.
Yeah.
And that is 19th century, so
It's very delicate.
well over 100 years old. This is from Tsarist Russia, pre-revolutionary.
Okay.
It came from a church. It was a Wall hanging, hand painted, so it's a one-off. Almost certainly smuggled out of Russia during the time of the Tsar. So before the Russian Revolution. And it's a painting of St. George and the Dragon.
Oh, wow.
And you may well ask, why is the dragon so small? It's like a pony.
The big eyes though.
It's because these were meant to represent the triumph of Christianity over paganism.
Yeah.
So St. George and his horse were always drawn bigger than the dragon. In reality, a dragon could have swallowed St. George and the horse he was riding. So that is why it's so small. What is interesting about this, other than that it's a one-off from Russia, from a Russian Orthodox church, what is so interesting about this is there is an untranslated inscription in the back in Old Russian. Now it's a bit hard to see. I tried to take a rubbing of it, but it wouldn't take. But you have to get it in the right light to see it. But it'd be interesting to get that.
Yeah. No, I love that.
And see what it.
I didn't even know, like, just you building up the story as you were unwrapping it. I was like, I'm gonna like this one.
And the story of St. George and the Dragon is basically a retelling of the story of Perseus and Andromeda.
Yeah.
In St. George's lifetime, there's nothing to connect him to dragons whatsoever.
So, is it anything to do with Michael's? Like the picture you have up over there?
Yes, that was like the dragon being associated with the devil.
Yes.
It's actually far older. The dragons go back at least 75,000 years.
Oh yeah. No.
So they're much older than the concept of demons and devils. This is 500 years old, and it comes from Nepal, and it was a Nepalese shaman's box for storing sacred jewellery. The Tibetan dragon is called the Druk, and it was supposed to guard sacred stones, precious jewels, and the ritual jewellery would have been held in here. But that's 16th century. I mean, it has some damage. One of the barbels has gotten there, and it's got a few chips, but you've got to expect that after it's been knocking around.
Wow.
Knocking around for...
Did you specifically look for like that item? Like, how did you know what to look for?
Well, the guy, my friend who travels a lot in the Far East and has done shamanistic training, he said he got this thing, and he showed it to me, and I thought, yeah, that's pretty good. He got that for me as well. Yeah. But this is much older. This is 16th century. That's 19th century.
Okay.
I've got this one framed. It's from a magazine from 1866, and it was drawn by a sketch by somebody who saw the actual ritual, and it's from Vietnam, and it's the dragon dance ritual which they did in Saigon, and it's to induce the dragon to bring rain. So they have it after the Flaming Pearl, but that's 1866, and it's not a reprint, it's from the actual magazine.
Obviously having Michael in the corner, and you have he's quashing the dragon, to have possibly over on the other side the inverse, that dragons bring creation and life.
I've brought you some gloves for these as well.
That's ominous. There you go.
Wow.
That makes me like this item. It's hazardous. It requires gloves.
I assume.
This first one is Japanese. It is late Edo period, which is early 19th century. It's a book, totally untranslated, about yokai, which are broadly ghosts and monsters. I'm reading it the wrong way around there. And it's the sort of thing we could get translated and reprinted. This has never, to my knowledge, been reproduced in the West or translated, and it has... Oh, I'm holding it upside down because it's... it has no... It has no...
That's incredible.
It's never been reprinted.
So this is before the Meiji Restoration then? So this is...
Yes, before the Meiji Restoration. That is some sort of Oni or wind spirit. I've written books on Japanese ghosts and monsters, so it'd be really interesting to get this translated.
I mean, the paper looks very interesting in that book. Incredible.
Japanese ghosts and monsters are incredibly bizarre.
Yeah.
I mean, I found out about them a few years ago just pootling around the internet, and I got so absorbed with them I wrote an encyclopedia because they were so strange and so fascinating. Ah yes, this one is the works of St. John of Damascus, and this is a 1546 reprint in Latin with a vellum binding. St. John was a 7th century Byzantine monk, and he was a teacher, studied philosophy, and what he wrote about, this is a collection of his writings. He's one of the first people to study Islam, one of the first Westerners to study Islam and their rituals, and he writes on church history, sacred rites, hymns, dogmas, ghosts, and dragons. And this looks like the Necronomicon, doesn't it? This is from 1856, and this is his writings in Latin. You could get somebody who's more of an expert than I am in old books, and then you get somebody who can translate Latin, translate the whole thing, because it's never been done into English, and then reprint it. This is interesting because nothing is known about the author. The book is called On Incredible Things. Elephatus, no one knows who he or she was, but they may have been a student of Aristotle, and it's an early book on skepticism, and it looks at stories from Greek mythology, not so much about the gods, but things like, there's a story about a woman who transforms into a bear. She's out hunting bears and she transforms into a bear. He says, no, she's going to have been eaten by a bear, and then her friends see the bear and think it's her. And stuff like that. Yeah. He's trying to make logical sense of these old stories. So it's a very early work on skepticism.
That's really interesting.
This is Tibetan. This is Tibetan. And it is a ritual Tibetan trumpet that would have been used by Tibetan monks. It's supposed to make a sound like running or pouring water, but I've tried to use it. It sounds more like a farting sound, if you ask me.
I was not expecting that.
It would have had a chain. It would have had a chain at one time, but the chain is no longer there.
So by blowing on that, what have you just done?
I don't know.
Range. Didn't need to, it's already here.
What a beautiful artifact it is. All the carvings on it again, look at that.
Yeah.
Is that a face on it? With the antlers?
It's a dragon.
It's a dragon's
Yeah,
head?
yeah.
Oh, the dragon's
I'm
head.
just looking at that there.
Oh, God.
That's the lotus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Looks more beautiful than it sounds.
Yeah.
This is around 1850, so late Edo. It's Japanese, carved tray, with the dragon motif. But what's interesting about this one is that it's a winged dragon.
Mm.
Dragons are called ryu or tatsu in Japanese, and only the most ancient and powerful ones grew wings. And this is interesting because it's a winged one, but also on the back you've got the artist's inscription from circa 1850.
Mm-hmm.
That's strange.
What it was used for, I don't know. It's one of those mystery objects we don't really know much about.
I thought Japanese artists weren't always named on other like drawings and stuff like that. So it's quite interesting.
Yeah, they're not. But this one has the maker's inscription in it.
Wow.
There's the main piece. It's once again, it's 19th century, so it's late Edo or very early Meiji. It's a bronze dragon. What's interesting about this is that the Japanese dragon usually only has 3 claws. But if you look on this one, it's got 3 claws, except on that foot where it's got 4 claws like the Chinese dragon, and that is because it holds a crystal ball used for scrying.
Oh wow. Do you know if this is like an old crystal ball, or is it?
I know that the dragon is 19th century. I don't know if the crystal is or not. They didn't say. No. So it could be. It might not be. I can't guarantee that.
So many stunning artefacts, all of them either already on display or very soon to be on display at the museum. And not only that, on Saturday the 31st of May, Richard will be returning to Rowtons Museum in Carmarthen to give a fascinating talk on dragons, to discuss if they are more than mere myth. Saturday will also be the day that we inaugurate the museum's dragon exhibit, with most of the artifacts forming that collection being the ones featured in this video. So if you want to come and see them for yourself in person, or would like to join us in the chapel of our museum for Richard's talk, be sure to book your tickets now using the link in the description. This is not to be missed, the chance to learn about dragons from a man who has gone into the wilds to look for them. And if you are excited to discover more about everything that we've been up to over the past few months in regards to our new paranormal museum, don't go anywhere. Change is in the air, and the Paranormal Scholar will be back soon with all new original content. Thank you so much to Richard Freeman for being so generous and supporting our museum at this early stage. We really encourage people to come to his talk and also to read more about his work via his extensive book collection. All links in the description. Thank you for watching. Until next time.